So maybe just yeah.
Oh, this is normally log on to YouTube and you have to the YouTube screen, you get the feedback. I just muted this one. Nobody will be able to. It's not gonna even let me get on YouTube. It's just the website. No, but there's no, if I have it on mute, there's nothing. The phone's work.
We're thinking, Lisa, if we call into the Zoom thing and put it on speaker on here. It's like a call-in number somewhere.
And people out there still hear me?
Cassettes. Where else on there?
Thank you.
So if we had someone call in. But you can call in from one of these phones.
For me to leave the meeting, rejoin and do the audio option. An option.
Oh, if you want, yeah. I think if you call in, you can actually just call in if you want. It'd be separate from your computer.
Do those phones work? Can we do it from one of
Those
those,
phones do
or are they not working?
Yeah, so here.
How long is support this?
And I'm trying to get Emily Martin, and I'm trying to get her the Zoom link so she can try.
And they should be able to hear us and we'll hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I can email it to her. My email's working. And I have
Is
the agenda.
Okay, I'm gonna tell her somebody's emailing it to her right now.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Technology, isn't it grand?
Can be, not to be a huge headache, right?
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just. You are in the meeting now. There are 11 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. You have been added to the waiting list. You cannot talk or listen until the host admits you to the meeting.
Over.
The waiver.
I just hung up the stupid phone.
And maybe
One button.
yours.
That means so that right? That means people take time to do it anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
Broadcasting.
I asked and they could hear us,
Oh, it's just we can't hear that.
but we can't hear them. And I have my speakers muted.
Very people up to the.
Yeah.
That's, oh, see up here, I show it's not muted. See the mute.
What happened?
I've had a lot of trial and error.
Sorry, everybody, we're having technical difficulties with one of our providers. I'll be right back.
The little girl is back.
So now talk here and see if they
Okay,
can hear.
how is that getting feedback? So I had the microphone
Because
off.
this
Because I
was
just unmuted.
Well, no, but the microphone is off here. Like I had it hard
Can you
with
turn the microphone on this
It's
one?
on now.
Okay, can anyone hear us on there? Is it on speaker?
It's on speaker.
Yes,
Yeah,
we can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Okay.
So now we'll just have to do everything through the phone, so don't unmute it, Sherry. We'll just have to talk through the phone. All right.
Talk loud.
So what we're doing is we have the phone on speaker. So when people are going to talk, they'll talk through that. We're muted up here though. And so just when you talk, make sure that you're talking loud and clear so that they can hear what you're saying as well. All right, I think we're ready to go.
Meeting is called to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Any changes or additions? Have a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Other discussion? Yes.
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none? Forward is read. Next is topics from the floor. So any attendees not otherwise on the agenda? Is there anybody that would like to speak?
Is this a time to speak about the proposed plan, or should we wait? The proposed urban trail, or should we wait?
Yeah, that is next on new business. But if you'd like to say something about that now would be the time.
Okay, so this is Steve Toskey. I live at 215 North River Street. And I want to say that my wife and I are ardent supporters of the park system. We use it often. We are hikers. We hike a lot of places. And I've hiked the urban trail, the one that you have mapped out. And we have people that go by our house all the time up on the bluff. The reason why I'm appearing is to state my opposition to the cable fence that's being proposed for North River Street. There's several reasons for that. Number one, I don't think there's a need for it. There are a lot of places with drop-offs in St. Helens that don't have a fence. For example, Nob Hill Nature Park has many extremely steep, not marked drop-offs that people can fall off of, and there are many areas in St. Helens that people can fall off of things that don't have fences, and I'm including docks and things like that. There are a lot of places that you're supposed to watch where you're going. Nobody has fallen off that area that I know of, and so there is no reason to have a fence up there at all. Secondly, I think that the fence will cause more problems than it solves, because I don't think that there's been any study to to say whether there's a need for a fence. And I think it's personal opinions have been expressed that there should be a fence there for personal reasons. And I don't think that a fence enhances the safety of that place at all for a lot of different reasons. One of which being is that when people will climb over the fence and they're going to get on the other side of it. There's maintenance that goes on up there, cutting of grass and things like that. But when people get on the other side of the fence and if they fall off, now all of a sudden, the reason why they fell off is because there's a fence there. So I don't think that a fence protects the city in any way. In fact, as a matter of fact, I think the fence hurts the city as far as defending any lawsuit is concerned, because as soon as you put a fence up, suddenly there's a whole bunch of discussion about whether the fence contributed to the problem. So I believe that that fence should be removed from the plan. Third thing I wanted to bring up is whether a cable fence, which is what's proposed to be there, is at all appropriate for the area, which it is not. I've heard this commission speak about the views of this area being some of the nicest in St. Helens. I've had people turn around and tell me, because I live up there, that this view is one of the best they've ever seen. And the idea of putting a cable fence, which is something that should be really in the middle of a highway on a freeway at one of the most lovely views in the world, is not appropriate. And it's also not appropriate to the neighborhood. So if there's going to be a fence there, which I don't think there ever should be a fence, it should be something that involves basalt, masonry, and ironwork, and not a cable fence, which is really something that's more appropriate for the center of a free median. So I'm glad you're listening to me. I wanted to begin by saying I'm super strong support of the parks. I'm super strong support of the urban trail, but I'm against this fence. It's not needed. And I'm certainly against a fence that is going to be of the current proposed design. Thank you.
Next on new business is urban trail. There might be other people online.
Yeah, Emily had her hand up.
Oh, Emily had her hand up, thank you. Emily?
Hi, I really appreciate you giving me a couple minutes to talk. I wanted to mention that we had a volunteer event at McCormick Park this past Saturday and pulled several bags worth of shining geranium and lesser celandine, which are two invasive weeds that we've started to see along, certainly for shining geranium, numerous parks and trails and roadways within the city of St. Helens, as well as the city of Scappoose. And to be honest, I can't really think of any area where I haven't seen shining geranium. And that and lesser celandine are two weeds that I'm trying to work with the Soil and Water Conservation District on trying to figure out how do we successfully treat these weeds. But I mainly just wanted to alert everyone that these weeds are out there, but also to say that it was really nice to have Howard Blumenthal out there and a few other members from the community to help me do some magic and take care of the landscape. And I'm really hopeful that we'll get more opportunities to inspire the community to come out and help us.
Thank you, Emily. Anybody else with their hand up? Topic from the floor. Any other topics from the floor? Trying to talk and you're on mute.
City Hall phone number, so I don't know who that is.
Kathy is the name. And they're trying to talk.
Dale, press your, put your mouse on your screen and then unmute. It's on the bottom left.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I would like to give a little bit of history of this area. so that people understand a little bit about our neighborhood. So when I get a chance, I'd like to tell everybody about, since 1969, since I've been here, what it's like and what's happened.
I think you're on, my friend.
Am I on?
Yes.
Anyway, we bought this property in 1969. And at the time, the sewer line hadn't been put in on below us and such. And there was 2 trails down, one on each side of the big fir tree that sits in front of our house. The brush was pretty thick. You couldn't hardly see, the river itself. So after the city put in the sewer line, which is the second level below us, before you get down to the park, there wasn't much access. But as our kids grew up, they used to go down either one trail or the other to the sand pile and play in the sand. Then they, like I say, they put the sewer line, left things open. And then more people started using the old trail. And for the last 50 years, I've been working on the trail periodically, and twice the city has closed it. And I went down and dug the dirt out so people could walk back down it again. And so that is kind of my opinion. And I've been trimming the brush and trimming, the blackberries and such, so people could walk up and down it, and removing grass so they could get down the trail. But what bothers me, the city has done nothing except they put in a steps a couple years, or last year or 2 years ago. And it helped, but it impairs the people who run bicycles up and down the trail, or, carts or whatever, makes it more difficult. And so that is a problem. But I've tried to keep the trail open, remove the big rocks off the trail so people don't stumble and fall on them. And this last year, I was basically after the trail, but it was, dropped off again. I cleaned out a new spot. And as I was digging, I ran to an old ice skate that somebody had thrown over the bank, plus some hedge trimmer that I found there. So I cleaned them up and saved them as antiques. But the city has done nothing, for our street as far as keeping the grass mowed. Our residents keep all the grass and stuff mowed. And anyway, the neighbor next door, when we moved in, Paul and Francis Vance, and Paul had a compost pile right down below the property on the bank. And there's still the metal pipes down there, or the metal post down there that, or what's left of the compost place. And so he says, well, throw your stuff into my compost pile. And so we've been doing it for the last 50 years. And the portion, most of the stuff decomposes after a while, or is covered up by the blackberries. And so there's no real ugly portion of it, although it is on city property. And so anyway, we tried, and I've been picking up bottles and cans and junk from the trail since we lived here, and taking care of that. And then a couple, 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I got permission from the city to clear the brush away so that people, when they come along and are taking pictures or looking over the bank, can see the river. And all the neighbors chipped in and paid a portion of the $3,000 that it cost to clean up the deal, because the city wouldn't clean up the brush. And we also asked permission to trim the one big fir tree that's further south of the property on River Street, trim it up so people could see out better and see over the boat dock and et cetera. But the city said, no, we can't do that. But we've had very little cooperation or very little help from the city on maintaining River Street. In fact, River Street has several potholes that need to be corrected, but nothing's been done about those. And so that is basically where I kind of stand on this whole situation, is that if we could cooperate between the residents and the city, it'd make things a lot different.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else that would like to speak from the floor?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Dana Niedermeyer. I live at 245 North River Street. I too, I'm all for public access. I was on the Planning Commission for 7 years back in the 90s. And, you know, these types of discussions have been, you know, had for decades. One of the things that I always was a big proponent of was putting a handrail up the trail itself. But nobody ever really wanted to, you know, see that. Keeping to the point, with regard to the fence that's proposed, as depicted, this thing is a safety median. It belongs in a freeway someplace. It doesn't belong there. So if we continue down this road, I strongly recommend at least designing a fence that would be aesthetically pleasing and enhance the city's property instead of detracting from it. Also, this represents a pretty serious outlay in funds. This is not a cheap proposition. I don't know what that fence costs. I don't pretend to know, but simply installing it, you know, is a pretty good. I mean, you know, you've got concrete, you've got get somebody out there that knows what they're doing. You know, I mean, it can't be put in haphazardly, let alone, again, it's a safety median. So I'm quite certain it's a fairly expensive proposition. I've been here 26 years. There was one person on a 4th of July that went over the cliff, but he was hammered at the time, and it was his own damn fault. And so that's it. I mean, for 26 years, there's been nobody go over off that cliff. If we're trying to mark some sort of trail pathway or something, there are much less intrusive ways of doing it that will not cost anywhere close to what we're talking about here. This kind of money, this borders on, you know, you start thinking about putting in another boat ramp or something. That's my opinion, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else from the floor? Hearing none, we'll go to the next agenda item. Urban Trail, presented by Jerry Belcher and
I'll give a quick introduction here. Cast out maps. And so when this first started, it was over 3 years ago, and there was a subcommittee. And so I'm glad to see that this is finally getting down to where we're starting to talk about specifics. The fence up at the top of the cliff, you know, is an issue. That is one of the best public views here in Portland, or maybe even here in Astoria. It's a beautiful spot. And there was a car that went over in, I think, 1975 or 76. Challenge of people that were there shortly after. The child fell out of the car. So if you take a look at the trail here, we have, when we first started out, we were the Parks and Trails Commission. So our parks have trails in them, and most of these trails are very short, except for maybe now in Nob Hill Park, we have a fairly long one. We call them Lake now. But this would connect 4 parks plus the river walk and plus the city plaza here. So it would actually connect 5 parks together and a river walk. And in the subcommittee's opinion, and we feel like this is probably one of the best trails around. It's got a lot of things going through 5 or 6 parks. going down the river walk once it gets finished. You get to these parks, you can explore the parks if you want to. When you get through, you end up in downtown St. Helens, and you have an opportunity to go eat lunch or dinner or beer or whatever. So it has a lot to offer, and we just think that this would be a great asset to St. Helens. Now, granted, there are some things that need to be worked out, and probably the biggest one is the fence along Bias Street there, or whatever was decided to go there. So if you just come through this real quickly, it's now, we refer to it now as the Urban Trail. It hasn't really been given a name, but it's St. Helens Historic Riverfront Parks Trail, what we talked about. We talked about all the whys on the second page here. We just think it would really make St. Helens, regionally, there would be people coming here to do this, plus the people that live here. In the summertime, there's a shuttle that goes to Sand Island. Access that. We want to have a kiosk down by the river there, so people in the summertime when they come with boats, they can come up, they can look at the kiosk, they can see where the business is located, they can see where the sale is. We just think, we can go on and on here, but I don't want to do it take too much time doing this. We had priorities, which look at if you would like to. The very first priority we had on here was a safety fence at the top of the cliff. And I know that our mayor was really against that initially. And I know what some people in the city have talked about is having a black cable, like they do have in a median. And the reason that was picked was because if it was black, it wouldn't be very visible. I'm not an expert on this, but that was what the subcommittee came up with, and other people in this talked about. The next page here, we just basically talked about things that we could do. We even came up with a logo that could be painted on the trail. The trail used to be a figure-8 trail, and almost from every place you can see the top of the courthouse. Okay, and so now we call that a horizontal painted marker. So when you see that, it's called a horizontal painted marker. From here on, I'll kind of let Carmen take over after we get through. The subcommittee, Dana and Howard, Lynn, myself, Carmen, we walked this, and according where we thought that vertical markers should be, where there should be, we recommended 2 pedestrian lanes, which like they have in Seattle and Portland. Think of bike lanes. We also considered 2 crosswalks that need to be put in. I know that one of the individuals that spoke here that lives up on the cliff there, they talked about the expense of this. By far the most expensive thing here would be the fence. So, crosswalk, painted pedestrian lane, that could be done by our city. Yes, we would have to order some, vertical markers that are placed along the trail, but the horizontal ones could be, a stencil could be made, they could be painted. So, yes, there's going to be expense to it, but we think that this would be a great asset to our city. Carmen?
Yeah, so just kind of as some additional context, last meeting, I had mentioned that Public Works was looking at the urban trail and I believe considering where markers would meet in order for us to be able to meet. So the ask was that we, as a back and tell them what our proposal would be as far as where we would want to see markers, what kind of markers. Crosswalk. So what the map that's linked on the agenda, we don't have the screen. What it does is it has the trail route as one piece that you can check off or check or uncheck on the Google map, and then there's another layer to it that has all of the trail markers. So we walked the trail, we took notes as we walked as far as where we saw the vertical post marker, which the thought is that it's like a vertical post that has like a colored band on it. Dana, you did kind of describing what you thought, what you've seen in other that could look like. Yeah, so imagine it's just a single pole, right? Like a metal pole with just solid color and then a band of color, or using a small form of the pencil marker at least. That way, but it's not intrusive.
One thing I'd like to add to that, Dana, is left because your daughter was getting cold. But one thing I like the idea of the stripes because it makes it very visible. But on top of it, I would like to see an arrow on top of it that points you in the direction that you go.
That was one of the markers that we identified. The other was a horizontal pink mark, as Jerry was mentioning, kind of like a stencil. So we did, so we picked spots where we thought that would be useful. Notes where we thought there would need to be a crosswalk if one didn't exist, and then or maybe there was an area where there wasn't a sidewalk, and so we made a pedestrian bike lane, but for pedestrians. So we have all of that indicated. If you're looking at the Google Maps, so I was suggesting one.
I really can't. Just can't hear.
The dots on the map to get exactly what is what we're suggesting. So I think the key here is that this are suggestions of like in a perfect world what we would like to see. All of these now, and it, like, we don't need a barrier, or that's not the style that we actually need. So this is our suggestion going forward, but I wouldn't say this is like a final thing at all. It's more just us presenting this so that Public Works can review and ask any questions of us.
I can't get to it.
So,
Since we've had the meeting, two other things we've talked about is having on the map here, there are the blue dots represent the mile markers, so it's just a little bit over 2 miles.
Purple.
Is it purple?
Star is a mile marker.
Ah, purple star.
The purple star is a mile marker. The teal walking person is the marker. The yellow is the horizontal post marker. The black and white one is the and there is crosswalk, which I think is.
I think it's on their end, actually. I think it's kind of intermittent.
So let's try to color code them so that it would be kind of, I mean, it's a lot of dots on there to go. So if you walk your way around it. You can also do Google Maps, do it on your phone and walk with the map and the marker.
So after Carmen made the map, we talked about it and we decided, hey, maybe there should be markers every quarter mile. So when people are walking along, they know how far they've gone. And then Councilman Morton was looking at this, and where the trail crosses St. Helens Street, questions he had, was having a sign there that said, courthouse direction and urban trail and what we call it that direction. So that if people only wanted to walk a portion of the trail, they could head back. But eventually, once people get used to this trail, there's lots of combinations that people could do.
And on St. Helens Street, right there on that corner, actually, there is one of the
Uh-oh.
Why black for the wide grate and the point is because really, they said when you have black, such as little bars on your deck or anything, your eye tends to look past the black. Really don't see it like a white or silver, you know. I just haven't.
Hi, guys. This is Brandon. I've seen a few people commenting here, but I think those of us listening online, I can't hardly hear anything. I'm not sure if anybody else is having the same problem.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Stop, Dana. You've done it.
Lights up when you talk. It lights up when you talk, but mine didn't light up.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I think they got the point.
Yeah, I can hear Jerry fine, but he seems to be the only one there at the council chamber that that I'm able to hear really that well. Everybody else is pretty muffled.
Same
sure
for me,
why.
Paul, and I'm not hearing anybody right now.
No, but not sure why Jerry seemed to be. He's fine, but anybody else that I'm hearing is not picking up a whole lot of what's going on. Oh no, it looks like they're, I don't know, maybe we're just in a blackout right now. They should all just hop on their computer, you know?
Oh, she says we're trying, it looks like. Be nice. Yes, he wants to play with you. I'm sure.
Can you hear me on here? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
All right, so somehow it got put on mute. We will try to speak up. To turn your microphone or your speakers up too. We're gonna do our best
Okay,
to try to do this.
is that better? Can you hear us again?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
So I don't know how much you guys heard of my little spiel or not. Did you guys hear anything that I had to say
Some.
on the phone?
Yeah, some of it.
Your voice isn't picking up very well for some reason, Carmen.
I'm not a super loud talker. It's kind of awkward for me to yell across the room.
This Steve Tosk. I thought I heard that the fence was a kind of a potential concept and it's still exploratory and it might come out. That's kind of what I heard.
But as Carmen was saying, these are more of suggestions and written down kind of a plan that we'll be sending over to the public works, and they will take our recommendations and move forward from there. So not everything that we've put on this plan is set in stone, nor is it all guaranteed to be enacted as stated. So everything is in a bit of a discussion phase right now, if that's what I'm understanding.
Yeah,
So first of all, this is with Parks and Recreation. So I had came to the commission asking for some more details of what they would like to see for the urban trail, because we would like to get moving forward on putting this in action. We'll be working in Public Works, Engineering, and Planning on the components of the trail to see how those work into what our what we have to follow for ordinances and things like that, because there might be some markers that just aren't feasible in that location. Same thing with the fencing, that will be a Public Works bigger discussion. So before we enact this trail, there's still some work to be done. Another reason why we wanted to get things more finalized is as we apply for grants, it's a lot easier for us to have a plan to say what we're applying for than just a just kind of a hope. And so now we're coming up with a plan so we can talk about the feasibility of putting these actions into place. And then we'll talk about the funding streams of how we'll be doing that. So that's where we're at right now. It's just the planning phase.
Are there any other questions?
I have one more suggestion. Since we're in the planning phase, Steve Toski again. I use that trail all the time to go up and down. And I do think there needs to be improvements in the trail by the tree. I think that Dana's idea of a handrail and some steps up there is a good idea. It's difficult to navigate the initial part of the trail as it goes over the lip from River Street down the trail. The rocks get loose, and I think that an appropriate stairway down there would help people get up and down there, especially older people. And also, I think the way that the city did the trail down below, which is the stairs with the cement and the railroad ties, is perfectly fine and durable. So I'm going to throw that in there as somebody uses the trail and does see an area of improvement there, for especially if you're thinking of getting a lot more people up and down there. Make that area a little more safe to navigate.
Are there any more comments from the commissioners?
This is Daryl Perkerson. What I'd like to see is more
For the commissioners, sir.
of the city basically contacting the property owners in the area, because all of a sudden we're blindsided with these ideas. And back in the good old days, used to talk to the city officials, and they would come and talk to you and say what they're going to do, and whether they're going to use dynamite to remove the rocks or they're going to use a jackhammer. And so it'd be help if the city would communicate with the property owners more.
As we move forward on how we need to communicate with the citizens. Notify the appropriate way, and that we do have more time for public engagement for suggestions. But at this point, we are asking from the commissioners if there's any other comments about what was presented today. And you will see this up on upcoming agendas. And as we have our public comment, we'll have time for comments during that time for other citizens.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, Daryl, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Daryl, this is Jerry Belcher.
Yes.
Hey, Daryl, we're not trying to blindside you. We're trying to, we're trying to make this as open as we, and we're not trying to make this secretive at all. We want to get everyone involved. And especially if it's, it's going in front of your house there, you definitely want some input. I understand that, Daryl.
No, I appreciate your input, Jerry, because we've communicated for the last 50 years pretty well, you and Lynn.
52, Daryl.
Oh, 52, okay.
All right, we do have visitors today that are going to present about a bench. Let's try to keep on topic and time here so we can move on to that. Thank you.
Need any kind of next, what is our path forward with this? I think the link's been sent out, so Shauna, are you gonna kind of do follow up?
Yeah, so I'll follow up with Mohammed and engineering and planning to see what their thoughts are, and then I think the next step from that is probably a proposal going forward with what we want to do, and then looking at the funding then knowing what's going on and communicating those, and so we'll do our due diligence to make sure that happens. But in the meantime, if there's any questions, comments, concerns, you can always email me. We have our commissioners here that are like feedback and stuff as well, so we'll work through this and see the best plan for our current citizens and also our folks that come to St. Helens as well. So I don't hear anything else at this point, so we'll go ahead and move forward to the next item.
And the next item on the agenda is Park Update Botanical Gardens by Jerry Belcher.
For those of you who don't know, at most meetings, one of the commissioners gives a report on a park. So kind of, and this is the park that I was assigned to. So Columbia Botanical Gardens, you have a map of it, located on Belton Road, basically right across from the Elks. It's a two-part park, really. When you walk down in it, there's the first part that's the wetlands, where you can see on the map where it says wetlands. And then as you progress up above there, there's the part where it was the old quarry. And a lot of rocks have been shoved there. And if you look real close, you can see where there's been big rows of boulders moved in there. I've been going to this park since 1974, and I did boulders with the boys club one time. So that's where it's located, and you can see the number of trails that are in it. Okay, I'll try to go through this quickly. Okay, what is a park? It's a nature park, like Nob Hill Park, I guess Dalton Lake to an extent. Nature parks are set aside for the preservation of significant natural resources, remnant landscape, open spaces, visual aesthetics, etc. It's pretty much what it says. A nature park usually doesn't have a lot of amenities except for trails where people walk. I'm not going to read the rest of that. Okay, page 22. Okay, Columbia Botanical Gardens. It's a description. The gardens were constructed at the site of an old rock quarry. Within the site, there is very little soil. There is a low swampy area and a high elevated area with large mossy boulders. Vegetation abounds through the park, including evergreen and deciduous trees, many wild shrubs, and swamp plants. And I added to that poison ivy. There's lots of poison ivy there. Emily Martin, who works for the Scappoose Bay watershed, we were thinking about killing it, spraying it. We just basically sprayed so people wouldn't get poison oak. But poison oak it's good habitat for birds. They can hide, mammals can hide. I didn't realize that. They also have berries that are eaten, so it's also a food source for wildlife. So the poison ivy we're probably not going to get rid of, at least right now. Okay. It says amenities. Basically, the only amenities there is a gravel trail, and there are a few signs there. Okay, level of service. Services there. Okay. Basically, the state says that we should have 52 acres of nature parks, but it's not. You don't have to have it. It's just kind of like a recommendation. I think now we have like 10 plus, count Nob Hill Park and Botanical Gardens. But I think if we eventually add to probably Dalton Lake and Millard and Ross Roads, we might have a lot of nature areas there. Okay, park classification. Oh, this is the level of service, how people rated what the park had. Did they like what was there? Did they not like what was there? And the Columbia Botanical Gardens is almost always rated towards the bottom. Almost always. I'll just kind of leave it at that. Because a lot of people don't go there. Your husband goes there all the time, and he says he sees people there quite frequently. So I don't know my neighbors. Yeah, I know. Okay, okay, who visits, how often is the park visited? People who did this survey a number of years ago, the people that took the survey, only 12% of them had visited the park. It's way down towards the bottom. Like McCormick Park, like 95% of the people. Columbia View Park, 72%. Campbell Park, 53%. So it's way down there. It's kind of out of the way. Talked about it's not marked very well. It doesn't have very good area for cars to park. Label of maintenance, page 59. How do people rate that? Well, what do you think? It's kind of towards the bottom. Well maintained, it's got the lowest rating. 9% said it was well maintained. And the next one, even closest to that, was Dalton Lake Recreation Area, which was 10%. And from there, it was the next one was like 20%. So, you know, but a lot has been done to both these areas in the last, especially Dalton Lake, thanks to live. So it's not very well maintained. I'll leave it at that. But we have had 2 park cleanups at Carmen. I have kind of supervised, and we're going to do another one later on. So it is getting a little nicer. Amenities. Again, it's rated way towards the edge, way down there. Like only 31% of people are satisfied. There's only 2 other parks out of 13 that are rated less, and that's not by very much. Accessibility, almost everyone that goes there, vast majority of people walk there. Few people go by car. Improvements. These are, I don't know, have we talked about these? Maybe, I don't know. One thing, we've been trying to remove invasive plants. We've got rid of blackberries, we've got rid of ivy, we started getting rid of the holly. We're still working on that. So that's eventually going to happen, at least a big portion. I mean, not all of it. The thing that we've talked about here in the meeting before is that we felt like all parks should have a kiosk. So now there is a sign there that says Columbia Nature Park. I'm not sure how long that's been there, Carmen. I ride there every day. But at least people know that that's where the trailhead is now. But we'd like to see a kiosk there. And the reason we'd like to see a kiosk there is because, one, we could have a big map of the trail. We could have maybe some history about, you know, it being a quarry. We could also have some information, if I didn't already say this, about poison ivy, what poison ivy looks like. You need to stay away from this, stay on the trail. And also, it'd be nice if that area was graveled. So a kiosk with gravel. And also, I think the upper trails especially should be graveled. Now, the property around that's been sold now, so it might be harder to come in the backside, but people would probably give us permission. And park cleanup. Carmen says we're on for June 4th for a park cleanup this year at Botanical Gardens, and that's going to be a 2-hour cleanup. It'll go from 9 to 11. Oh, you told me 2 hours, because usually we do 3 hours and everyone's done in 2 hours. So 2 hours, and basically we're just going to, you know, work on. I'm just going to be in charge of removing the ivy, and I'll take one. And how you can bring it to does anyone have any questions about? Nice quiet place if you want to go, just go for a walk and yeah, I mean, of course, no.
Thank you, Jerry. Next up is invasive plants.
Yeah, Untitled Nature Park, we didn't really start noticing this until about 3 years ago, and it is just marching into the park. You'll see why I call it red shining geranium. By the bottom of it, where it goes in the ground, is exceptionally red. It is just becoming exceptionally rampant in our parks. Each side of the railroad type staircase coming up from the new plant property is covered in it. Both sides of the trail coming in from 3rd Street now are covered in this. It displaces native plants. There's talk that it may actually even affect the ground, so other things may not want to grow in it. I thought it was smaller, but I've been seeing it now that this is almost a foot high. It's also starting to get into the moss around trees. It's starting to go up the trees so that it can spread its evil seeds even more. There's no real definitive way of getting rid of it easily right now. A lot of us are trying to do pulling, but that is a lot of work. I mean, we produced, probably 8 to 10 bags or more over at McCormick Park last weekend alone, just with about a half a dozen people pulling it for hours. There's talks of possibly torching it, but I just need to sound the alarm on it that we really need to start looking at it. If you see it in our yards, I've actually picked it up. We got it in one of the yards up by where I live now, and figure out how to eradicate it hand pulling. Luckily, it's just in a grassy area so that we can probably going to try some sheet mulching and that will take care of it and smother it out.
River rock too really well.
What?
It grows in river rock really well too.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you can see it along Highway 30. Yeah. So I'm just trying to sound the alarm. That's also another reason that it's really important if you're in one of our parks to stay on the trails, because you have parts of the park where it isn't. And so people spread it, dogs spread it, deer spread it, everything that moves spreads it. And so it's just important to stay on the correct paths, because we still have areas where it hasn't gotten to in our park yet. And it just like to start watching it. I mean, to me, the way that I'm seeing it coming in our park in the next 5 to 10 years, it could almost, if we don't start. People say we shouldn't even be throwing it necessarily into composting, because if it isn't composted correctly by a commercial farm, it may just spread the seeds even farther. So at this time, we're talking about the best thing to do is just go into the landfill. That would bring me up to another question, Shauna. Do you guys empty the garbage? Does the Parks Department empty the garbage cans out on the veneer plant property? I mean, I'm starting to wonder if I may not be putting bags of this down by the can at the fairs. Wanted to warn you that that'd be a good way to do this, or what would be my best way to get rid of it?
We do.
Okay.
Run a veneer property and garbage. So I would just shoot me an email letting me know that you have the next.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, if you see it down there, just try to let you know. But
Yeah.
You never know when it suits your inkling to suddenly go pull.
Yeah. So Emily has her hand up.
Yep.
Yeah, one thing I did want to mention is, if we're going to start looking at putting in kiosks at every park, I think the other thing we should look at doing is putting in a boot brushing system. I've seen some parks down in the Portland area have this. We know for certain that there's a lot of weeds that get spread because people wear hiking boots into one area and then they walk through the trails or they walk off trail and they're transferring the seeds. And if we had kiosks with some information, and if nothing else, at least some instructions that please wipe off your shoes before and after you go into the parks. There's going to be no way to guarantee that people use it, but at least it would be a way to kind of help educate people that there are weeds here that are a concern and that we know are being spread throughout the county, if not the entire state of Oregon. So I think that's something that, if not this year, at least in the next future, we start thinking about encouraging with our weed management approach.
Yeah, this is just one of the most aggressive weeds we've seen come into some natural areas. It's outpacing almost any of the others we've been trying to work on. So that's why I thought I would kind of start to shout an alarm about it.
On to the next agenda item. Thank you. donations, Shauna.
Yeah, so I actually have Jerry Allen, his lovely family here, and I apologize that we are down on this agenda there, but maybe we convince you to come be on our commission, kind of hold you captive, and then that's how we get. So this is my first bench donation request I've had, so I apologize for the little convoluted process there was, but you'll be my first one, so years from now I can talk about this, and we're excited for your tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll go ahead and.
My name is Jerry Allen. My wife and I moved up here in 19. Passed away last. Suffered. Raised my family here. This is my oldest daughter. Generations of ones here. Their son lives up on Smith Road and acres up there, and has some pretty famous grandchildren. Was number 6 in the name, Foxy. From St. Helens here. But anyway, I a lot of churches up on the a lot of things that require with a pension.
And I have been and one of the spots that we had talked about is throughout either the walking trails or over in the dog park area. And so Corey here, who's our partner, and we will definitely work on getting it. And I think there's some. Okay. Yeah, so some different benches. We're kind of going with a Trex design. We're getting a lot of those donated to us and some kind of. And so I'll send it again, and it's all up just. And then as soon as that order,
I'm sure the city knows, you guys know what last.
Yeah, and we'll help with all that.
Anything it's against what you guys are already doing.
Our amazing park staff will take great care of it. We'll get it installed, and so I just did anybody have any questions about the bench proposal or anything like that? So I think the next step is that we just sign off on the commission. City council too.
Do we need a proposal, a motion?
Let's go ahead and do one, just, yeah, let's go ahead, yeah, okay.
I recommend that they put the bench in.
Second.
Any other discussion?
And I think you did it all.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right,
And you're
approved as a motion.
I have a question.
Okay.
When benches are donated, do the public get their
Probably, once it's already been approved. And so once, I'm sure at the next meeting or the meeting after, we'll.
Yeah, I know we could comment.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but I think that's a great idea and something that I would like to move forward with. just a side note, I know your family very well, and my kids are very
So will there also be a plaque and everything?
Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, well, I'll send that on to you all.
Benches do have a.
Well, actually, the Lions Club puts a thing, any bench that the Lions Club is helping us get, they have a little plaque that's I can't remember, where they buy the Lions Club or something. Lions Club benches, we put it every 500 pounds worth of plastic that's collected, we get a free Trex bench. So Nobbsville has got two more that'll be.
And I'll see what we have, in our inventory, because that might be an option too, so, yeah. I'll look out too. And you all are welcome to stick around, but we understand if you need to exit as well, so we.
We just drove 4,000 miles.
Oh, yes. Now, do you live in Springfield now, is that where you
Yeah,
live?
but we got this idea to try
Oh.
back here.
Oh, well, thank you for coming here. Yes. I grew up in Oak Ridge, I'm very familiar with Springfield. Thank you for your time, and thank you, yes, thank you.
Walk that trail, she says all the time. That's what a dog walker and
Yeah.
walk.
All the time, I love it.
Better.
Yeah.
It's a great trail, but I can see where it can be done.
I know that.
All right, my time up again.
Yeah.
So,
The Recreation Council.
yeah, so, first of all, I want to introduce everyone who hasn't met Corey Shelby before. He's our new park supervisor. Been with the city for about 13 years now in different roles and stuff, and just has been such a godsend to me and my role here, because I came in very green, no pun intended, but, and Howard probably can tell you the things that he's had to walk me through, and I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying right now. Corey's been that same person, so we're excited that he was able to transition into their role. That means there's Corey, who's a working supervisor, and then he has 2 staff members. And we just have the 3 folks over at Park holding it down. And Corey and I've been really working together to see where our priorities need to be, our high value list, and how we go forth with our small but mighty staff and our limited budget, and how we're gonna get the spaces spaced and for everyone to be in. We presented at the last council meeting our Parks and Recreation Division report, which is similar to what you all will present in next month or so. So if you flip through the packet here, you can see our organization activity for what we've done. And this just kind of shows you how much people are using parks and recreation programs. And these numbers have increased since then, because I pulled the report on the 27th, and we had 200 more registrations and probably 20 more reservations. So if you look on there, it shows we've done 926 program registrations the last 60 days. The last 2 months, that's how many we've taken in. You can see the breakdown from residents, non-residents, how many reservations we've done. So that new playground over there is just packed solid all the time with birthday parties and just things like that. And so we've adjusted our hours a little bit, where our other 2 crew members actually come in at 7 so that they can blow off the playgrounds and get them ready for the day, because people start showing up at 9 o'clock ready to play, and they don't want us out there with our roof blowers. You can see where our demographics mostly are, and with that, we, really cater to the younger group, so we do have programs for everyone, and we have a lot of free programs that don't get captured on this. And not more, but we just really needed to create a pyramid of like activities to kind of build the other ones. And we started recreation back in 2018, 2022, and we had 2 years of a pandemic, so we're still kind of seeing that. I'm not going to go over this too much because you have it all here, but I just wanted to highlight a few things. Such as we have 11 sports fields, and we, maintain 8 irrigation systems, 4 retention ponds. We do the groundskeeping for Swayze property, the police station, the library, the 2 rec buildings. Those are also into that workload as well. Brought in over $6,000 in facility and park rentals in the last 6 months. We have the 2 recreation facilities, and one has been used, which a lot of you all have been able to go. I have 52 volunteers and instructors. That's just on the recreation side, and then we have this big volunteer group on the park side too, which I'll be better at capturing that. But we're, having probably over 100 people in the last 6 months somehow touch our programs and impact them. And Dana's the one that I have out there running with 51st and 2nd graders because I'm like, Dana, I need you to coach. And so don't be surprised if you're coaching a soccer team and you don't know why, but that's what I do. We brought in over $105,000 in revenue through programs, and our recreation side is funded through fees. It's not something that we just get money from the general fund. We have to fund our programs. And so we have a goal that we have to make. Otherwise, we don't have a recreation program. So that's why you see us charging fees for stuff, because we have to fund it. I think this year we have it budgeted that our total budget is over $300,000, but we have a $160,000 grant, and we also bring in $140,000. So really, as a general fund, we're only impacting $60,000. So to provide a program like this, it only impacts $50,000 is a pretty. We've offered 126 after-school programs this year, and we've offered 401 programs in the last 6 months. So if you see Erin and I with like fire coming out of our hair, that's because it really is. We're doing a lot of things, and so we appreciate your grace and patience while we work through also the commission stuff, because that's another thing that we love to do, but it's just another thing that we're trying to figure out and do that. It's been really trying to utilize shared staffing. So Tori and I do a lot of different stuff together that I went and cleaned bathrooms in the morning so they've been short staffed. Tori came and built stuff for us, so it's nice to be able to share that staffing. And then it shows the grant. So last year, and this isn't including the Campbell Park one, and the reason why that is when I pulled the report, that grant actually was done in a different fiscal year, just got finished a little later, just with delays and stuff. We got $226,000 in grants. So that was for programming, but there was stuff from like Moda Assist. I think the Campbell Park one was like $180,000. So add that onto there. That's like $400,000 in grants. And right now in programming grants, I have $170,000 pending. That will be cool to keep it up. Let's see here, and it just goes over our successes for 2022, building stronger partnerships with local organizations and nonprofits. We house the art guild meetings now. They meet weekly to work on art projects and stuff. They're doing their art show. It's coming Saturday at the community center from 5 to 8. So feel free to pop in and see. We've been working with our disc golf folks. We're getting ready to put a kiosk up for them that they donated. We've been trying to help them more with getting things taken care of around there with our limited staff, but they've done a lot of it themselves. And as we know, even though we have this robust volunteer group, we also are short volunteers in a lot of ways. Corey and staff, they rebuilt the Lions Club kiosk over at McCormick Park, and the Lions Club donated the materials there, but the park staff built it. It was great. I just talked to Kathy today, and she was really happy with it. So we have, not only do we have our staff and our program customers, we also have all of our internal customers and user groups that we are trying to be the best partners we can. them. I do all the social media for the Parks and Recreation Facebook page, another job in itself, but I do get some support from Crystal and Cameron with creating things creating because they have so much on their plate too. Our goals for 2022, 2023 is to continue to collaborate, and I've collaborated with a lot of you guys and trying to figure out, what next steps can we make. A CIP focus on the projects that have been identified in the master plan. We'll be doing a pretty big update that will have some paperwork like this that will show pictures of deteriorating in the parks and what our plan is for making those, what the cost is going to be in the future budget years. And I know this one's a little restricted and the meeting's coming up this week, but we're going to need a park maintenance plan. So we have money set aside that if we need to do a new bathroom, we have the money and what that looks like. So that will be something that Corey and I will be looking at in the fall, winter when things are calming down a little bit, because right now it's like busy time for everyone. Adopt a Park program and volunteer outreach, which you all have a huge, we're already doing that work, but how do we get these other parks also into that kind of pool to help with the volunteer day? McCormick Park, I don't know the last time when they had a volunteer work party, so this weekend was really impactful, and I know the weather had something to do with people not showing up and people busy with baseball and soccer, that being able to parties will be important. Communications and outreach to citizens. I really want to start bringing back some paper stuff. That's not all that I want to do, and there is a cost to that, but there is folks that do like to come just have a piece of paper and not have to look on the internet. Jerry, I'm looking at you, right? Are you the priest? Yeah. And expanding our community wellness hub. Corey and I went to a director's retreat a couple weeks ago, and it was in Hillsborough, and it was basically Parks and Recreation supervisors and managers from all over Oregon, and they are so impressed with what we're doing out here. I had people coming from, the director of Oregon Parks and Recreation is going to a lot of other, like City of Albany, Portland, Tiger, Tualatin parks, wanting to know how do we do all this with the little resources that we have in staff, and just we have folks that are coming out looking at our playground out here because they want to build an inclusive playground and things like that. So that was really exciting. Have our new playground equipment over at McCormick Park, and you all might get asked about this. There is benches coming. We had to wait for the grass to settle first, and then we have to wait for the weather to dry out. We just can't put any machinery on that area without ripping the grass back out. It's so swampy. So it is coming. I know that's something that everyone really wants to have, and we agree. And it's been a plan for the dry weather to pull it off. A drinking fountain will be over by Pavilion number 4, which is right by the playground. Some increased signage for the zip line area, and then a concrete path to the line. And in Campbell Park, we're looking at putting benches in, a pickleball net checkout system that will be through the Library of Things. They already have an expert system that they do, and Zach Jacobs' wife, I think, is the head of the Library of Things over there. And so they're open different hours, people have library cards. It just really makes sense to use something that's already in place, a whole new thing. We're gonna look for future funding around the basketball hoop, signage, security camera, and a vandalism preventive plan. They're being hit at Campbell Park almost on a daily basis. And so Tori and I talked a little bit about doing a program. Yeah.
So we went over a crime prevention through environmental design.
So what that's gonna look like is we're going to look at all the outbuildings that are around the park to see which ones need to be taken down, because some of them aren't being utilized for anything, and they're just rotting. For one, they need to come down just for safety. And 2, they're creating barriers for people to hide behind. And we've had Campbell Park bathrooms shut down for quite a while now. We do have an outhouse there. We try to work with the schools to be open, for them to be open when the school needs them. But we're having people flush things down there, overflowing the sewage. We had them tear our door off. We came in today to just racial slurs everywhere, really wanted to bring this up here, is in front of the bathroom doors, there's some barrier type things for privacy. We did take those down. Our doors are self-shutting doors, so we weren't required to have those anyways. And what those are doing is just providing barriers for people to hide behind. We come in probably once a week and they're kicked in, so we have to. We're gonna look at camera systems, and we filed a police report today and just start that process of what that looks like. But Campbell Park really needs some TLC right now. It's getting hit pretty hard, and park staff has been amazing getting that stuff cleaned up right away, because that's our goal. As soon as you see it, you get it cleaned up, because if you leave it, then it attracts more things like that. And so many people will start getting frustrated with us cleaning it up. So like, what? And they keep cleaning up the stuff, you know, and so we just keep doing it, and that's what we do. And so, but that really impacts our day. I mean, we spent probably the whole day of 3 staff members. We had feces smeared in one of the bathrooms today. So just really a lot of stuff happening. So if you're wondering what we're up to during the day, it's a lot of stuff like that. Just keeping it safe and clean for everyone.
It's happening mostly overnight.
We do our last checks at about 4 when I do my last drive-through, and after that time, I don't know what happened. You know, I'll come back the next day and
And it's gotta be probably night because we have softball. I mean, we have those fields and those parks are just packed until like 8 o'clock at night, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I know Paul's had some issues with the BMX area, so just we need to create more visibility in a lot of the places, and to show we're not gonna tolerate it, and we're gonna keep cleaning it up, and it's just gonna take away some things that they might feel like, oh, I can hide behind here.
And if you see vandalism happening at one of our parks, call it in.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
that's the most important thing, is for
Yeah.
people to call in and report when you see it happening or.
And Chief Greenway knows what's going on. They sent extra patrol, but they're so limited. And when they patrol by, people aren't gonna be out. That's where they're hiding behind the things. We've had some opportunities with the new community center with folks coming in between the breezeway, but we have a ring there, so I just get on there and tell them that we're closed and stuff. You know, so we'll just keep working through it and stuff, but there might be an ask soon for us to push the council for some money for some surveillance stuff over there. So that's coming next, but I just wanted to have all of our ducks in a row first.
Sean, does the St. Helens, do they periodically, I mean, I know that that's not gonna stop the vandalism. But I mean, do the police drive through there occasionally?
Yeah, they drive through there daily, and they're overnight shift drives, depending on what's going on. They've had an uptick on a lot of different things that, you know, are taking their resources, but yes, they do, yes. But it's just, and we can't catch, like, we are like, okay, we got it down, they're coming up 3:35, and we're, so we're
You're
like.
trying to close bathrooms in at the same
Yes.
time to try to catch before
Yeah.
people would show up.
And then
but-
people would get, and we're like, what happened? So I told Tori we'd have to be like in a Sasquatch suit, like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you're like, yeah, we got you. So it's really unfortunate, and, you know, part of it is just kids, and that, and so trying to find these park activities that will help with getting them doing better things will be the thing.
Community service.
Exactly, and I have, you know, the kids that I've caught on top of the roofs and stuff, I'll have them come, I'm like, oh, it looks like you all are bored, come with me, and they're like, oh, no, that way, and so I give them Dutch Brothers cards to like pick up garbage and stuff, and, you know, I've had a few that text message me like with ideas about the skate park, like, oh, I saw you tearing that thing off the skate park, what would you like to be there? Because obviously you don't like that, so please don't tear that off, and so, you know, so trying to do that kind of outreach, but it's gonna take a while, right? We're building from the ground up here, so,
I don't know if this would do any good or not, but, have you talked to maybe the school system? Have them, you know, sometimes when you advertise things, it gets worse. You think, oh, yeah, this looks like fun, but, maybe some type of, informational system, you know, from the schools where, you know, they talk about, hey, you know, this is parks, this.
Do they have a little newspaper at the schools so that it could go in some of
I
the
don't
school
know if they have
newspapers?
newspapers anymore. We are very involved with the schools and very integrated into them with our after-school program. I know they're having a whole nother separate thing in the middle school that is just really sad right now, and and so they're trying to teach those respect things of open space. So yes, so the answer is yes, but it's just how do we make it a real thing that people realize that, because they've already ripped off the basketball hoop backing
The thing that goes around the back,
at
or
the
the
brand
backboard.
new, yes, and
That was
also
like
it's
bittersweet.
trying to get the padding off the thing. And so, yeah, just identifying what that is, I think, whoever said it, Howard, you might have, about getting the neighbors involved, that was another thing. We want to launch is some sort of like campaign of like, be a good neighbor and call this in if you see, like, just don't let it go the other way because these things are happening. And Campbell Park, because it is in a residential type thing. And it also is unique because the playground is really hidden too. As we move forward, we've talked about ways that we can maybe relocate that playground up front more, make the back area either more parking or a dog park or something that's not so like, where they can burn a slide or that sort of thing. So we'll look through it and stuff, but we just wanted to like have an overview of what we've been doing the last 6 months. And basically, our biggest thing is diversity, inclusion, and we are in equity and trying to create those in the parks and any kind of spaces we bring in, any sort of like how can this be an all use type of thing. And there's a lot of challenges with that because there's a lot of spaces that just aren't built for that, and so we'll just have to. So yeah, that was our report that we had for the last 6 months.
Is it possible to get in on the conversation guys about the Campbell Park system? I agreed to, that has kind of become one concern. I think you're bringing about what's going on, when it's going on, and I've been brainstorming options too to help with like the vandalism around the building.
Yeah.
And so we'll
Yeah.
to
Yes,
chat about that.
we will definitely bring you in on that.
I know the one thing that stopped the vandalism here at this restaurant.
Yeah, that
They
was
don't need
number
to be
one.
on 24/7 unless there's a problem, so. But it's like Big Brother's watching everything, the whole. But if there's problems, I know Sand Island, but just they knew who was. Dogs. And they're on the flip side.
And the barriers that we're having there, the one that we want to get is costly. I think it's like $5,000 for the camera. What it will do is it will activate like a light and tell people to leave. Like it will get on and say, leave the park is closed. And it starts
Big Brother is watching you.
It starts to real shock. The nice thing
Probably the
about
next
it,
thing stole them.
yeah, so the nice thing is, relocate it to other, like it's not, like, say we get control over Campbell Park and then we start having, so we can move it around. And so I have a demo, set up that we're gonna do with this, company. Because the reverse, or the other thing is a lot of the cameras, you need Wi-Fi and stuff. And when you're at a park, that doesn't really, we don't have no Wi-Fi there, so we're not that cool. Anyway. So, so this will just be an ask for when we come back and.
I mean, $5,000, the amount of money spent, just like fixing.
Yes, for sure, yeah. It's just, I guess, where we're feeling the crunch is where everyone is in the budget, and so we're gonna just need a little bit more support, because it hasn't been budgeted in, because our, costs have went up a ton, like in dog food bags, oh my gosh, we spend probably $7,000 to $10,000 a year just on. We get a $40,000 a year operating. That includes trash bags, toilet paper, so it's really not a lot of stuff. So when we're asking for a whole separate big purchase, why behind it? Everyone's kind of coming in. You want $5,000 for this, and this is important, and it is important. Yeah. It just has to be whatever is the most important.
set the next one, I think. Yeah.
Oh, for,
Annual report.
yeah, so that was just a reminder that it's coming up on, is it, because I got an email today for the management meeting that they were saying something in May, but it's June 1st is when you're doing it, okay.
Yeah.
And so, from my understanding, Lynn and Brandon. Awesome.
We're already working on it. We've got a PowerPoint start.
Yeah, so you just have to have that to Kathy by,
Would that be the 18th?
yeah, I think it is 2 weeks now, or if she can send it out, so yeah, the 18th.
And you were mentioning if we couldn't do it at that time and it was gonna take us a little bit longer, then we could move it.
So, yeah, so if you need to move it, you can, though the agendas are pretty full. And they're pretty, like ours, right, they're getting full. So just keep that in mind. But yes, definitely keep in contact, and if you need support from us, let us know too.
Okay. Okay, next is, old business, and, name on it, actually, Howard brought it up last meeting, commission field trips to the city parks. So he was suggesting that we, haven't done that for a long time, I guess, and, that we should start doing that because not everybody can always go to all of our parks, nature parks or preserve. And I think it would be good for us to see. And, so that when we're all talking about it, you can visualize that better. So, the first one that you wanted to start with was Sand Island.
Is there a way for us to arrange to have that guy take us to Sand?
So the bars is actually the cities, and, Korea happens to have a boat license. So I-
All the time, so yeah, we could
Pretty
arrange
sure
that.
we have an end, right?
Yeah,
We'll just arrange it, right?
Yeah, there's a.
We have life jackets.
How many people?
Yeah, well, we gotta take
Yeah,
the date.
how many people can fit on the boat?
I think I could fit 9 on the boat.
Yeah, the others will have to swim.
We would do two, I mean, it's not hard to do a trip, it's not.
And I think we're talking, especially Sand Island is a little bit more summerish, not
Yeah,
like
oh, yeah.
tomorrow.
What do you
Right, I
think?
think like
July or
July,
something.
August, well, you get sick mosquitoes or.
Well, we've been to Sand Island before. We went in the summer. It was nice. It was nice over there.
Yeah.
It's been a long time though.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But I'd like to go see both.
I think it's really pertinent that we do this soon because, well, it's summer, without a doubt, or, the reason is that, we all should know where the private part is and the public part. Sand Island.
Oh, Sand, yeah.
So, because of the camping and that kind of thing, that, and how it's all organized.
In the past, we only did one park a year. I'm wondering if we should try to choose twos.
We did more than one park a year. We're doing like a park every other month.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So would this be something that would be in addition to the meetings, or would it be something
It would-
instead of the meeting?
It would be something, yeah, it's set up separate. We'd meet there, we'd do a little tour of it. Someone would bring water, someone would bring cookies and stuff.
Yeah.
Call it a retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that will be good for us too, because as we develop our CIP plan, you all can see what our priority, I mean, they're in the master plan already, but you can see what we're talking about the maintenance staff that we're gonna be have a yearly maintenance.
So all we need to do is find a date. So, if we wanna, do you wanna do Belton first?
I've never been to Belmont, like.
Oh, okay, great. I look forward to that. So I'll send out an email and, find out when people are available, probably do online thing.
Is there any way you can text me?
Okay, I can. Yeah.
So with that, because it's separate than a meeting, is there any sort of public notice that needs to happen, that
No, they just can't, it's not a meeting, it's not advertised, it's not accessible, it's not recordable, so you cannot or anything.
No, we just.
Yeah, it's
Change
just
where the park.
wandering around the park.
As a group.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
Ask questions, yeah. Now, is it something that we could take notes and bring? Right. Next is staff report.
So we did a big piece already in there. I just wanted to tell you about a few things that are coming up. We are getting ready. This Saturday is our last day for our youth soccer, which has been awesome. We've had a few really crazy weather events that have happened. There was rain, hail, lightning, and thunder with 3-year-olds, like 53-year-olds. So that was interesting. And they came back the next week. So I was like, this probably traumatized them forever, but I couldn't. The parents are like, you have to go. We have to get out of the house. Yeah. I spoke a little bit about the director's retreat that Tori and I went on. We got to meet other cities like Happy Valley, which we're really interested in because they're kind of the same topic. We talked a lot about houseless populations and how they're coming up with different ordinance campaigns and stuff. So we're going to meet with them on ordinances they have and see if there's any here as well, because that's something that's kind of laws and stuff that we just want to make sure. We're going to be doing adult softball this year, so we inherited the adult softball league, and we have 12 teams signed up, so we have we got a drag for the parks, which is really exciting because we've been using. And yeah, and it works, but this will be able to do even more. And so, so that's exciting, and we've been doing a lot of kiosk installations.
The disc golf guys, disc golf vandalism. Retreat they were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That was part of it.
So there's an app that's out that's called, I'll have to get you the correct information. It's like a COVID-19 type app, I think that just collects information from your phone. But it does show that the nation is at 35% in park usage, and I think Oregon was like 55% or something. And that's like up from like normal usage. So that's how our parks, and we can see it because just the amount of garbage that we're taking out. Now, people have been pretty good about like garbage stuff. We changed our park reservation system a little bit where you can do it online, but there is a waiver on there that we really ask people to pack out their garbage with them. And some people still, but we were having where people would come with a pinata and a bike box, and that was still the whole thing. That's for the week and the weekend, and we don't have staff on the weekend. And then come into like a crafting. So just really kindly, we're like, please help us keep our park safe or clean. And people have been doing it. And we haven't had any problems with the reservation staff. Like the system seems really well. And then I said the staff is coming in a little earlier so they can have the spaces ready for as the crowds show up. So that's been good. So yeah, I mean, there's tons of, we're just excited to be well, I should say that Tori might not be as excited as I am. Like I'm not excited about having a team that really cares about pushing things forward. And Tori and I are both on that same page where we're really reevaluating what that looks like. And it will take a little bit to get there. And we had to dig out from some things that were on a good thing for it. So Tori is available for questions. I'm available for questions, and we really appreciate what this commission does and look forward to it.
Counselor's report.
All right, the big one is Mr. Torrey. I want to welcome you aboard, and what a. organizing and Citizens Day in a park. And so this is your showcase. So it's this is the same park will be at McCormick Park on. So had great representation last year, and it'd be kind of cool. That on the agenda. What you want to do.
Plan on volunteering.
Yeah. I hope maybe we'd be over closer to some of the other people rather than, not like we're off in a corner where there were walking clubs and
Well, we'll
other
make
things.
that happen,
So,
wherever you want to be, okay? So, I mean, it's like, you are the park.
Christina, and because she's arranging the vendor stuff, but
okay,
last year we were there because Carmen and I were also helping with cooking and doing a bunch of other things, so we were
okay.
very but yes,
Okay.
yes, we'll make sure that.
I'm trying to get Watershed Council actually to make it.
I'll send out the link that you can,
Bringing in food handlers.
Are they really?
Exactly.
I like you guys flipping the burgers.
I don't know if you like what happens when they fall on the floor or whatever, and they get back on. Oh, come on, we don't see that.
The park is really clean.
No,
Very
it's
big.
not, yeah.
You got a 5-second rule.
Hey, insightful, presentation by Carmen and Jerry today. And, we, that's been thought about for, several years, and good work with the group that walked that. I think, Howie, you were there, and, yeah, exactly. It was a rainy day that day, wasn't it? Yeah.
Fun was had by
Well, yeah, good presentation, and gives everyone food for thought to basically the interest of those interests. All then, regarding, I don't like that word. The fence is with some people. What's to the mayor, because he visualized a fence, a wooden fence, you couldn't see over, whatever. And that's what he kind of visualized, just kind of like, now it's going to be a safety barrier. Safety barrier could even be signage. It could be a lot of things. So whatever, and I like the citizens who called in because it sounds like they want to get involved. I know Steve mentioned something about a handrail with these. But anyway, Barry and myself and our public was there, walked that area, and he says, oh, without a doubt, this is, I don't feel good being head with these kind of safety issues.
It's worried about cargo.
Well, there's been more than 2 people over that. It's a safety issue. Not on my watch. I wouldn't want the Working Trail to have that activity flying over, kids doing whatever, and kids will be around. They'll be walking that with it. Anyway, I think you gave really good food for thought, and I like the idea of calling it a safety barrier.
I think we thought that a cable was the least intrusive. The least visible light, so. but-
That was our discussion. It's a really great thing to discuss with, not only but with the residents who live in that area.
Yeah.
Because we were very mindful in our discussion about, not being minimally visible as far as the barrier goes, but keeping things in mind and from a little bit more thoroughly with.
And, you know, the whole idea of cost came up today about, specifically about doing that project and creating a safety barrier there. But the cost of a 2-mile trail and a 2-mile urban trail trip is going to be minimal. And, there might be some very insightful that's, forward. All goodness. My comment there. Yeah, you know, I know that there are, like Steve Trotsky brought up the point that there is fall off there at Knobville Park, because I go up to that overlook and, you know, look over the edge and it's real dangerous, but there's no cars going by there. And since they've cleared that out the last 4 or 5 years and made that asphalt area below, I mean, I didn't measure that, but that's probably a 40-foot drop or so. Or maybe, yeah, it's a long drop. And, you know, like you said, Tom and Zaire just said, hey, this is a danger area. And I've felt, you know, from the very get-go when we first walked out, you know, we felt like that, whether the urban trail ever goes in or not, I thought about coming and talking to the city council about, you know, there needs to be a barrier there. Because I used to live right around the corner there, 215 North 2nd Street. Go down the trail. Daryl, I know Daryl very well. I use that all the time. And like I said, a car went over one time, and it's just lucky that the baby that was in it killed. And like 2 weeks later, there was a barrier there. It needs to be. Okay, budget meeting. 5 o'clock in this. And I think interested, all interested in parks. A good thing. Any other public meeting? 5 minutes.
Coming Thursday, correct?
Yes, and then, of course, other departments. Library is excited, and, you know, with our discussions that went along on streets, that, you know, we knew that this was coming. So I backed off on any kind of things going. I think about the year after and the year after the parks made the sacrifice for kayak launching area. It's in the real house and a good thing.
We need some sort of baseball. Have no field for them, right? Teams. Play at the high school, but we haven't played a single game at the high school because our field is shot. We need a field for them to play, or they're going to move the Scappoose. We'll lose those kids. That's one thing I know we need. That's what I was going to bring it on, put on the next agenda to talk about next month. I don't know what suggestion we have. We need to find a park where we can put a big field in for these kids. Like I said, we've had 8 games. Not one has been at the high school. I'm coaching high school. We haven't played one home game. playing in Wilsonville, we're playing in Greg Sutton because they have turf. Well, I'm saying that right now, we have nothing for them to play on.
Yeah.
Like I said, we have 3 teams right now for 7 days, that's not counting the tournament teams. Yeah.
Did you anticipate that 2 years?
Not
even last year. Just now.
Yeah.
The middle school field.
The middle school field was supposed to be for that field, but they designed it wrong, and so we can't use that field. Then it was, we're gonna use the high school field. Now, the high school field, since all we've had all this rain, it's just mush. We can't even play on it. We don't even practice on it right now. Practicing on the turf football field. Because we can't go on that field without sinking ankle deep in that. It's sad though, when you've had 8 games all on the road, and 6 of those games are supposed to be at home.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, and that's my report.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, on to discussion items, and Brandon, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great, you're up.
So I just, yeah, I apologize. I might be missing a few things here. I know, Doug, I missed, for some reason, it doesn't pick your voice up either. So I missed a lot of that, but I apologize. I couldn't be there today, but I've been sick and didn't think I'd share it with everybody. So, so this will have to do for today, but I just wanted to propose a possible work party or cleanup for the Veterans Memorial at McCormick Park. I was there yesterday and it's in pretty sad shape, lots of weeds. And I just thought with Memorial Day coming up and Citizens Day in the park, that should look its best. And I had a similar concern 2 years ago. I called the city council and talked about it. And I think if any place in the city should be kept up and maintained, it should be the Veterans Memorial. I just think that's such a high profile, visible area. I'm willing to come down there and help or do whatever it takes, but I'd love to see that spruced up and looking nice.
How much work do you think there is there, Brandon? Is it like 2 hours for like 6 people, or like?
I think if we had a good sized group, we could plug away, get a lot done in 2 hours. Like I said, mainly just weeds in the flower beds. It'd be nice if we could get a little bark dust and freshen it up, spruce it up a little bit.
I'll volunteer.
It's Doug, and one of the things I want to tell you that throughout the times prior to the park becoming a plaza, all the redevelopment there, that the garden club took that on, along with the area across from on that intersection of 18th and McCormick Park. Garden Club was very active in doing that, and then the kind of the landscape changed a bit. Stan and Lynn Quixote have spearheaded those efforts. The Garden Club, once the volcano came down, they put up that flower bed in the triangle. They do a lot of things in that resource. If you want me to call Stan, talk to him about it, I think that's a really good resource. But if you have their phone numbers or whatever, I think they're still in the phone book. They're a family that's been around forever. They care of park. They do a lot of work. And Garden Club people, I see a good resource. Other people that you want involved, that's
And Brandon, this is Lynn, and I'm part of the Garden Club, and we're meeting on Thursday, so I'll bring it up at that time. But you can count on me volunteering, and I'll also give you the number to call.
likewise.
I'm happy to help too, just let me know and what. Hop in for an hour and do what they can.
Did you hear that, Brandon?
I think I got most of it. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Poor group, why did I do that?
Okay.
And I do have a comment. Well, okay, discussion
I'll take the
item.
last one.
Real quick, we're still progressing with a Portland Community College person for coming up with a map for Nob Hill Nature Park. And then I just wanted to say also that we did a $600 grant from the Portland Garden Club for Nob Hill again, for caging plants and make a gas maybe from a weed eater and some string. And my last question is, do we have a new person for our group? Where did that go with our? Is it? Okay, okay. That's all I have for now.
Okay. So, we've got a decision to be here. Something happened. We did interview 2 people for the position. And I've got to say that, the first candidate chosen, who got the first, Scott, was Virginia. But then, another person came forward, and we had the opportunity to keep it open. This person is on another board. We didn't realize that you could have that waived to be on another board or commission. So I'm putting it forward to you, whether you would like to keep that open to have this person try again and interview. He's chair right now of another board, and he actually interviewed the same time I did. So
I thought you could only be on one commission at a time, though.
you can have it waived by the mayor. I found that out by Kathy.
I think we already interviewed people,
Yeah,
we have a
I
great
think-
candidate,
Yeah.
I don't see a
And if
reason
you're on
to
a board,
open it
another
up
board,
again.
let someone else have a chance.
If you have it open again, I think we welcome it, but
Yeah.
we kind of went ahead and did our meeting.
And people that are on Zoom, can I get your opinion?
I'm fine either way. I know some of our applicants are ones that just kind of check every box. I don't think they're specifically passionate about parks. They just want to volunteer. So I think I don't see what it would hurt if it's somebody that is passionate about parks and wants to volunteer their time. I don't think it would hurt to have them come and present themselves and get to know them.
Anything else?
I'm with the group here, I think Carmen said it really well. I know the 5 of us here, said, we've already made our selection. We've had nominations, we voted, we've had selections, 5 of us here, which makes a majority. I think we say done deal.
So does anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the results of our interview to send Scott to be.
Yeah. Good. So any other discussion before we vote?
The other guy, keep his mind open. We'd love to talk to him next time we have it open.
I'll let him know that.
Before we go, you
Okay.
can, I'd like to be put on the agenda, so. Trying to find a park, I'm gonna try to bring Matt Lock in. Park for a baseball still.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. So, Scott will be notified by Kathy Payne, I'll call her. Is that the process?
Yeah, I'll bring the, grant to the council for a vote,
Thank you.
your recommendation.
Okay. If there's else for discussion items,
Just a reminder that there's a cleanup at Botanical Garden.
Nine or 10? That's the Botanical Park on the 4th. It's 10. Now 9, but.
It's 9 a.m.
Okay.
9 to 11.
9 to 11.
9 to
Which is
11.
3 hours. 9 to 11.
I was close. Okay.
I was just gonna ask if we have a schedule for the park update, who's gonna be presenting next, and that way I have enough time. I believe,
I can
Carmen
do
just
next
kind of,
one.
yeah, she told you. If you wanna do the month after, that's fine. That would be, July. There are no other discussion items?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I forgot. So, ongoing meetings, Lynn and I discussed a little bit today about on the agenda having, when you submit agenda items, that you let us know about how long it's gonna be, so we allow that time. That way we have an idea of how long the agenda is gonna be to other agendas, so we're not putting it to really, really long or side conversations. So starting next month, as you send agenda items to Erin, you put how long you think that. It's just an estimate, and we're not gonna like cut you off in mid-sentence. It'll help us keep on track. And then just in the future, any kind of texting, this is my fault. I should have had them, I didn't realize they were coming tonight, but have them go first on the agenda, so they don't have to.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, so just as we go forward, we'll do that.
Good, but that means I have to get on my computer.
We have my full email.
That would work.
It just really helps us, because otherwise we get different items and then things might be forgotten about, so it really helps us keep
I
them
am
on track.
really turned on.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad you called me today.
All right, that's all I have for today, thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right. Meeting adjourned.